listeners, it's Jen. Welcome back to season 6 of What Are You Listening To? I can't believe it, but we're finally here, the second to last episode of season 6. And this week I'm back with another WAYLT Time Capsule episode. This week's time capsule is called Same Title, Totally Different Song. But before we begin, I'm going to make my weekly plea for you to continue sharing your comments, feedback, suggestions, and of course, all of your song recommendations. I've loved reading each and every one of your notes. So please keep the emails coming at jen@superawesomemix.com. That's Jen with 2 N's at superawesomemix.com. Now, for those of you that haven't listened to a WAYLT Time Capsule episode yet, it is exactly what it sounds like. Time Capsule episodes consist of bits and pieces, thoughts and emotions in the form of songs that are meant to evoke a certain time, place, or life phase. I'm going to bring you a 4-song playlist like always, but Time Capsule episodes are not interview style. They're simply meant to create a vibe or mark an audio moment in time. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. As I mentioned in the intro, this week's playlist is going to be made up of songs that have the same title but sound totally different. I've had this idea in my head for a while and it finally is coming to fruition. And it was hard to pick. There are a lot more songs than you may think that have the same title but sound totally different. And I also excluded like covers. This is not about like the same song. This is same title, completely different song. So, definitely, as I mentioned earlier, this week's playlist will be songs that have the same title but sound totally different. And that's primarily because they were created decades apart. And all 4 are still great songs that I love listening to, no matter how old or new they are. Which same title songs do you think made the cut this week? You're about to find out. And as you listen, if any of these songs are new to you, don't worry. We'll publish a playlist with the episode so you don't miss a beat. All right, let's get into it. The first set of songs might be easy to guess because I feel like I can't go anywhere without hearing the first track on today's playlist. The first song title we'll be exploring is Abracadabra, and we'll kick it off with the Lady Gaga version that was released earlier this year. This song has been in constant rotation everywhere. I feel like I cannot walk into a place without hearing it, but I'm not tired of it yet. Sometimes I feel like when a song is so ubiquitous and you hear it everywhere, it is quick to get on the nerves, but for whatever reason, not this one. And Lady Gaga is kind of hit or miss for me. I think she's super talented, no doubt. But sometimes her songs just sound too similar for me. I don't feel a lot of variety in all of her music. But this one really gets back to the heart of what I love about Lady Gaga. It reminds me of all those tracks that sort of launched her from the Fame Monster album, like Poker Face and Bad Romance, Telephone, Just Dance. Like all of those songs to me are sort of the best of Lady Gaga. Of course, I love the work that she did with A Star is Born. I think Shallow is a great song. But in terms of like traditional Lady Gaga, it's hard to beat the Fame Monster album. I think that's such a good one. And this is one of the first songs that she's come out with since that album, which was like 20 years old now. Is that right? That has put me back in that vibe with Lady Gaga. So I cannot get enough of Abracadabra. This one is super dancey, but it also has enough interesting elements to keep me coming back. You know, whether it's the time changes during the song, the nonsense words, the story. It's totally that Lady Gaga formula that has worked so well for her in the past and generated some of those hits that I just mentioned a second ago. I also love, I don't know why in particular this stands out, but I've also found that when I say this to other people, they agree. I love the feel the beat under your feet, the floor's on fire. Like, I love that line. I love the way she delivers it. It reminds me of the way she used to sort of do the stutter, the pa 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 poker face and Poker Face. It's just like an interesting element, and the way she delivers that line works really well for me. So it's funny, like I find myself waiting to get to that part in the song every time. And like I said, when I've shared that with other people, they're like, yeah, yeah, me too. So I don't know what it is. Maybe some music scholar out there can tell us what the magic is behind that particular line that makes everybody love it so much. But I feel like that's the great part of it. And then towards the end of the song, it's around like the 3 minute mark, a little before, it gets super disco for a second. You know, she goes into this really high octave and it almost sounds like you're listening to an old Donna Summer song. So I love that. I think there's a lot to dig into in this song. And as I mentioned earlier, I am definitely not tired of it yet. I mean, check back in with me come end of summer, and likely I will maybe have a different song on repeat. But for now, I'm still enjoying it. And I think that this is like an endlessly listenable, you always discover something new kind of song. So if you've not, if you've been living under a rock and somehow have managed to not hear this song yet, definitely go check it out. It is on the new Lady Gaga album entitled Mayhem. Also, the video is worth a watch. The costuming, the choreography, also very like Fame Monster era Lady Gaga. And I think it's great. So definitely check this one out. And for our second Abracadabra track, of course, we're going to pivot to the classic. Second track is Abracadabra by Steve Miller Band. And this is from the album of the same name that came out in June of 1982. This song came out 43 years before the Lady Gaga tune. That's crazy to me. But this is another one that I still love, will always love. And it's tied to me personally as well. It's not just a song that I love, but this was one of the first albums I ever got, actually, was the Steve Miller Band Abracadabra album. It was given to me by a cousin for my 8th birthday, and we immediately challenged each other to see who could learn every word of the song without missing one word first. Sadly, I lost, fans. It's true. But I've always loved this album. I still have it to this day, the exact same album that I got back in 1982. It's been around, it's been with me for a long time. It's survived a lot of moves, and it's one that I still listen to often. It is super rock, but kind of sexy. Like, I can remember thinking that when I was a kid. I thought it was super scandalous that he said the word panties. I mean, this was 38 years before WAP kids. So panties was pretty risque in 1982. I think now, definitely lyrics, videos, all of it have escalated to a whole new level. But I remember as a young kid, feeling sort of like, ooh, he just said a bad word, in the middle of the song. So that was another memory that I have from Abracadabra that made me love it. It felt like it was, I was listening to something that maybe was for adults, not kids. Even though when you listen now, like I said, compared to the music of today, it is a pretty tame song. And I also appreciated that this was a song that both guys and girls liked. I can remember it was always on someone's boombox on the playground. You'd go over to somebody's house on the weekend and somebody's big brother or sister would have it on. It would be on in the car. So it was kind of one of those universally loved songs. It wasn't just like, oh, that's a cheesy song for girls, or oh, that's a super rock song for guys. I think music was sort of categorized like that back in the day. And I think that this one was pretty universal. So I loved that. I think too, as much as I love this song and I do love Steve Miller Band, it's a band I grew up listening to. I did hate the story about his induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2016. For those of you that don't know, this just feels like an apropos time to share. But the story goes that the Black Keys, who anybody who's ever listened to the show knows I also love. I'm a huge, huge Black Keys fan. Um, they are huge Steve Miller fans and have been since childhood. I mean, I think if you listen to any Black Keys song, you cannot help notice the similarity to Steve Miller, especially the way Dan Auerbach sings. I think his delivery is really similar to Steve Miller. So they were huge, huge fans. Like, Steve Miller's imprinted all over the music that they make today, and they've loved him since they were a kid. But apparently, Steve Miller was pissed about the whole induction process, and he was not happy with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and was kind of just like a nightmare to be around. I hated hearing that. Like, I was bummed because it's, such I wanted those two forces to come together, the Black Keys and Steve Miller Band, and just have like this amazing moment with one another. And it sounds like it didn't go down that way. I think, the story also says it's rumored that Steve Miller didn't even know who the Black Keys were. So they're gushing about him and what a huge influence he was. And he's like, yeah, I don't even know who you are. So apparently that was not a great interaction. So I guess never meet your heroes, as they say, right? But I still can't help loving this song. And maybe he was just having a bad day. I've never personally, you'll be shocked to know, been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet. So I don't know what the process is like. Maybe he was justified, but I just hated hearing that they didn't have this like magical moment, since again, you can tell it's so obvious what a huge influence Steve Miller was on the Black Keys. But if you're not familiar with this song, definitely go back and check, especially if you are a fan of the Black Keys and you don't know Steve Miller Band. Go back and dig in. You'll immediately recognize the similarities. You'll immediately see sort of Steve Miller's imprint on modern day Black Keys music. So definitely go back and check this one out. It is a fun song. Even though it is from the 80s and you can tell that, it still has got a lot of cool elements in it. Sort of the dialed back, less produced version of the Lady Gaga song, right? Like you have some sound effects in it. You have some interesting moments in the song that are pretty cool, that keep it a good listen throughout the years. So Abracadabra by Steve Miller Band and Abracadabra by Lady Gaga are our first set of songs. Now, let's move into the second set of songs with the same name. For the first song in this set and track 3 on the playlist, we are going to move to a song called Ooh La La by Goldfrapp. This song came out in 2005, which I was surprised about. It was on an album called Supernature, and I loved this album. I listened to it on repeat over and over, but it was mind boggling to me that even that album is already 20 years old. I was shocked. But great album. Goldfrapp is another favorite of mine. I pull them out whenever I'm feeling blue or need an energy boost. Like I can always count on Goldfrapp to up the mood and create amazing, dancey, happy, energetic vibes. But like I said, the entire album, Supernature, is great. But this song is my easy favorite. It is 3.5 minutes of dance around your room magic. The background beat almost sounds like Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky. So you get a little bit of like familiarity there. But it's just so good. Like I said, it's an instant mood booster. If you need motivation to get off the couch, or an excellent walk up song to get you fired up for public speaking or a big meeting, may I recommend this song? Like will definitely like get you going. And if you're not familiar with Goldfrapp, they are a British band led by Alison Goldfrapp. She's a composer, she's a multi instrumentalist, and she also works with Will Gregory. That's sort of the two main components of Goldfrapp. But check them out. They have a really deep catalog, and they've collaborated with some of the best musicians in the business. They are for sure worth a listen. I promise, if you dig into Goldfrapp, you're going to find a song that you like. You're going to find a song that you add to a playlist. You're going to find a song that you, like I said, dance around by yourself too. They're just a great band. So Goldfrapp is this is my plug for Goldfrapp. I think the other thing that's interesting about this particular tune is that Alison Goldfrapp has said that she was really heavily influenced by the music of the 70s. And you can hear that again throughout their tracks. All of their albums, you can tell that she's like, she listened to a lot of disco at some point. But also like, T-Rex and things like that. Like she definitely has a rock edge as well, and a multi-octave voice. Like she's just beautiful to listen to. But she was heavily influenced by the music of the 70s. And I always wondered if she named this song Ooh La La as a way to pay homage to the second song in this set, which takes us to our last song on this week's playlist. My fourth track is a classic. And also, know this about me, if I'm ever forced to do karaoke, which I do not often do, I do not have a lovely singing voice, if you wondered. This is one of my top picks. I always go to this song for karaoke. So, rounding out today's playlist of same title, totally different songs is Ooh La La by Faces from the album of the same name from 1973. So this song came out 32 years before the Goldfrapp song. And I remember the first time I heard this song. This is a memory that I go back to often. You know, I talk about, especially in time capsule episodes, how these songs just immediately drop me into a time and place. And this one, I can close my eyes and I can see exactly where I was. I can remember that it was a warm summer day. I was in the back of a truck with a bunch of other kids, my friends, some cousins, and someone in my family had this 8 track. And all of us kids were in the back of the truck, and they had the little back doors that, like on the windshield or the back windshield of the truck open. So you could hear the music blaring from the front seat, and we had the windows down. You could hear it in the bed of the truck. And the first time this song came on, I was hooked. I just remember thinking it was the coolest song. We were all screaming it, all the kids. We were asking the adults in the front to keep playing it over and over and over again. And I just have loved it ever since. So this song has been with me my entire life since I was a kid until now. Like I said, the last time I had to sing karaoke, this was the song I chose. So I still listen to it often. I think it's a great song, and it honestly wasn't until I was probably in my 20s that I realized what a super group Faces was. If you're not familiar, was an English rock band. They were formed in London, like late 60s, early 70s. And they were formed by members of a band called Small Faces. But the lead singer was a guy named Steve Marriott, and he left to form the band Humble Pie. And so the remaining Small Faces members were joined by guitarist Ronnie Wood and singer Rod Stewart, who were both from the Jeff Beck group at the time. So, I mean, even just the names I dropped here are like super group material. But I mean, this band featured Ronnie Wood, who would go on to later be the guitarist for the Rolling Stones, and Rod Stewart, who everybody knows was a solo superstar throughout 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, he's still making music. And so definitely the talent in this band is undeniable. I mean, it's hard to argue with that level of talent. And I think that, Faces, Rod Stewart was sort of launching his solo career around the same time that Faces formed. And so he would invite them to play on his solo albums as well. And I think that was honestly kind of how the band like fell apart in the end, was that they were just kind of seen as like Rod Stewart's backing band. But definitely check out Faces. This album is great. It is one of the first, super groups. Well, there were a lot of those happening, I think, in the 70s, like people leaving bands and starting new bands and coming together to find the magic. But Faces is definitely in that echelon, and super, super good. Just again, the level of talent you cannot argue with. But this song is just pure joy to me. And I don't know how much of it is the song versus how much of it is the memory associated with the song for me. But I love it. I love that it's a grandson trying to impart wisdom about the ladies to his grandson. And who doesn't feel that chorus like so deeply? I wish that I knew what I know now when I was younger. Like, I think about that all the time. The damage I could do, people, if I had the knowledge I have now when I was a youngster. Boy, oh boy, look out, world. But I think that this song, again, worth a listen. It's an older song, but one that still rings really true and brings me a ton of joy. And I think that if you're not familiar with it, you will love it too if you give it a shot. and could not be more different than the Goldfrapp song. I think that that's something key to note too. Whereas, with Abracadabra, they're both kind of quirky and weird, especially for the time and place that they were released. But these two songs are totally different, and so I think that you definitely get an interesting take on songs with the same name but totally different vibe whenever you look at the ooh la la category. Well, that wraps up this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed this same title, different song episode. And what songs did I miss? I already have some ideas for a part 2. So be sure to get your suggestions in before season 7 kicks off in September. Please remember we've got an episode coming out on the 26th. We'll have an episode coming out on June 2nd. And then that will be it for this year. We'll round out season 6, and then I will be back at the beginning of September with season 7 of What Are You Listening To? So definitely, please be sure to send me your ideas. You can email me at Jenn at Super Awesome Mix, JENN at Super Awesome Mix, or drop me a DM on Instagram. I'm at JennJenn1020. That's JENNJENN 1020. And let me know what you would like to hear in season 7. As always, be sure to follow, download, and share this show. And if you love listening, please share the show with a friend you think might enjoy listening to. And last but not least, to stay informed on all things Super Awesome Mix and What Are You Listening To, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Super Awesome Mix. Thanks again for listening, and please join me again next week to find your new favorite song.